Let me just give you exactly what's happening online, okay? Where you been in primary school, where two people they want first, what's in there happening?
They go get that day.
Oh man, they can't get that. Like, hey, let the carpet.
When you have critical conversations that begin costly bossing mama or that kind of, that's one thing.
Life. What to make you expect them?
And the second thing,
there are business stories that are not being told. There are entrepreneurs that are not being spotted. There are brands that are not being celebrated. There are social causes that are not being amplified. The country not fine. The conditions now of life not fine. You're not fine. They not get for fine today. You not get for fine tomorrow. But there are some very fine people here.
Welcome to Honestly Speaking, where we have honest conversations about real issues shaping our lives and the world around us. I'm your host, Antonia Howard, and today we're talking about social media. Whether you like it or not, social media is here to stay. It has influenced the way we connect, the way we communicate, how we do business, how we get news, and many other aspects of our lives. We've seen platforms like Facebook, TikTok, Twitter create the space for us to have important conversations. We've seen hashtags turn into movements and online communities coming together to take real-world action. Social media platforms have been real tools for activism, storytelling, and just all-around community building. But on the flip side, social media can also be quite a toxic environment. It can be a space for disinformation, misinformation, cyberbullying, and all the negative things. So how do we in Sierra Leone create a responsible digital culture? How do we hold space for important, critical conversations that balance respect and accountability? So to talk about this, I have someone who frankly needs no introduction. She's a communications expert. She's a digital content creator. She describes her job as putting Sierra Leone online, making Sierra Leone famous. And she's no other person but Vickie Remoe.
Hi.
Welcome to Honestly Speaking.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited for you. This is fun. Happy for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm super excited as well.
Is this your first season?
Yes, it is.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So, first of all, audiobook, how has it been trying to make Sierra Leone famous?
It brings me, I do it because it brings me joy. It's a direct response to being a child of the diaspora who grew up overseas at a time when there wasn't a lot of positive stories or community online. And my homesickness is basically where the urge to document, find and search, curate, amplify Sierra Leoneans at home and in the diaspora. That's where that came from.
Perhaps you are, I would say, responsible for the proliferation of bloggers.
Happily responsible.
You started digital workshops and all of that, training people to tell stories online, to just basically own the online spaces. So how has that vision come to life? Do you think that where we are now is what you envisioned in terms of the digital community?
So the first thing is I started training people how to blog because I was looking for people to employ. Before I started doing the workshops, I would put out ads like, oh, we're looking to hire bloggers, and we just wouldn't be able to get anyone because one, people didn't even know what blogging was, and two, they didn't have the skill set. So I thought, okay, let's reverse engineer. Let me start training people, and then maybe I'll find a couple. And it did work. It became a way for me to identify talent and also bring them to my firm. The very first training I did, 2 people who participated in that became employees. One of them worked for my company for 5 years, the other one for 2 years. So it actually did do what I needed it to do. As for the larger impact, I think honestly, I think it's fantastic. Sierra Leone has high underemployment, high unemployment. And I think what you're seeing, the proliferation of microblogging, which is what we have, is a direct response to the lack of, I would say, employment in Sierra Leone. People are looking for something to do. And the great thing about content creation or digital is that there's limited barrier to access, in the sense that if you have access to data, you can become a content creator. So yeah, I think it's a positive thing, because eventually what you'll see is a sieve, like, what I'm gonna say, like liquids will find their level. So what you're gonna see is like people who are very, very good will rise up.
Yeah.
Everybody will be in the middle, and then of course the ones who are it'll be like this at some point. You have several people at the top who are very good because they're creating original content, interesting content, and then the base will be very heavy, and that's just what it'll be.
I do agree that it's a good thing. A lot of people are online. A lot of people are having important conversations. A lot of people are just sharing news, sharing information, and there's an actual online community here in Sierra Leone, which is a good thing. I think access to the internet has increased by a lot over the last 10 years, and it has been great, especially for young people. But the question is, how do we increase digital literacy? Because, like what you said, what we see is microblogging, a lot of people sharing information. Some news stories are not necessarily factual, but because they have access to the internet, they share anyway. So how do we increase digital literacy? What do we need to do?
I don't think that social media or blogging and digital literacy are connected, really. I don't think that much work has been done in Sierra Leone to increase digital literacy. I always talk about, for those of us who grew up outside of Sierra Leone, before, at least from my personal experience, before I ever started a blog, which was 20 years ago, before I ever wrote a single line on the internet that I published, I'd already sat in classes where like a librarian took us through how to find information online. And this is as early as like being in high school, how to use search engines, your personal information and the risks of putting your, personal information online, issues with identity theft, et cetera, et cetera. And so by the time I started creating content, I already had that education, right? And that never leaves you. And so unfortunately, I think that what's happened in Sierra Leone is, several years ago, there used to be this conversation around like leapfrogging, how technology can help countries in the southern hemisphere to leapfrog. The problem with leapfrogging is that you literally jump steps. And some steps are really, really critical for foundational growth. And I think that's what's happened here. I've not really seen anyone truly champion digital literacy. The other thing is that in most other markets, when the internet came, it came through internet cafes. And internet cafes became a really big place for education, right? So when you came to the internet cafe, there'd be one guy there who knew how to do stuff and he'd teach you. Sierra Leone, we got internet cafe and Celtel almost at the same time. So mobile internet, well, I would say mobile phones came and internet cafes arrived here at the same time because we were late because of the war, right? So while the rest of the sub-region were getting internet cafes, we had war. We couldn't get internet cafes. By the time we got internet cafes, mobile phones were already here, right? So it's like two things came at the same time, and we missed that foundational development that the the internet cafes provided, where a lot of digital literacy and education happened, and it's also not happening in the schools. So yeah, digital literacy to me is like any kind of literacy, right? It's like learning how to read. It's like learning the basics of phonics and phonemes and sounds. Um, in the same way, people need that as well before or as they're going to the internet, and it's not there. So it's not there. It's not there.
But what do you think this proliferation has done to our civic stroke political space in Sierra Leone?
So I think the thing to recognize is that before it's media, it's social, which means it's societal. Everything you see online that you would say typifies social media in Sierra Leone is what typifies Sierra Leone in society. It's what typifies Sierra Leone in communities. So what you're seeing online is who the average Sierra Leonean is. What you're seeing on the internet is what's on the street. It's just that now you're seeing it online. And so you can see it highly concentrated. And so, yeah, I just feel like it's not even I wouldn't even call it a civic space. I think it's more like a digital kotbari where people just go and just palaver, right? No, it's like, it really is. It's social media. And that's really what it is. People go to palaver under the tree. Right. And the tree is like Facebook. It's like too soon to really say what it is or how it is, or but what we're seeing now, like I said, is just, it's like the pioneers, the first people come online. What do they bring? They bring them all the problem that we did in our society, right? And it's also not very profitable. When it becomes very profitable, meaning when brands start paying a lot more attention to digital spaces, digital partnerships, brands will then have in their contracts things that people who they're partnering with can't do and can't say. And so that will, in a way, change people's behavior, because now if you want to keep your contract and your deal, you can't do anything that causes embarrassment to the people who pay you. So that kind of stuff oftentimes will shape behaviors and patterns, because if I'm a bank and I signed you as a content creator and influencer, and if you do something, now Nami Bank will get bad name. So yeah.
But you have to have created that kind of brand that the business is looking for, right? So how do we educate other influencers, people who are looking to go into influencing, to create a brand and understand that businesses would, or the influence in business would be more profitable if you present yourself like this? Or?
I don't think businesses are even there yet. We are in pre-first generation, like digital, like I said, in Sierra Leone. Most of the businesses don't have a digital strategy.
Right.
Even companies that have apps don't have a digital strategy. They don't have a digital team. They don't have the skill sets in-house to really truly maximize on their digital products or assets. I can tell you many banks in Sierra Leone have pages that have dead links. Like if I actually go on the banking websites, I click, they carry me go no side. That's for a lot of organizations. That tells you, like, if large scale organizations can't even get their websites right, it just tells you that, like, there's a bigger problem. And that big problem is there are a lot of people who call themselves IT people. There are a lot of people who call themselves, they're like skilled digital people who don't truly have the skill sets. But in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. So if me when at the MD, me self no sabi, now you say you sabi, now you get the paper, we don't hire you, then it's like no one can really say that it's not good unless like an outsider like me is like, Houston, we have a problem. There's also like an age thing. Most of the people who are online in Sierra Leone are very young, right? So
we have a young, youthful population.
That's
generally.
Across the continent, right? So the average age in Sierra Leone 19. Most of the people who are online on social media, creating or consuming content, they're very young. And the people in Sierra Leone who have the least access to capital or purchasing power are young people. So from a business perspective, if you're not selling to young people, you can kind of get away with not fully digitizing because your actual consumers, the people who are actually purchasing from you, they're not really there, right? At the end of the day, like for example, I posted the other day about fashion designers in Sierra Leone and how nobody has brought their goods to me to buy. In Ghana and in Senegal, I wouldn't need to post that because all of the fashion designers have websites. Most of them have websites. I can actually, no matter where I am, I can go to a website and purchase from them and they can ship to me. Even when I'm in Sierra Leone, I can't go to any fashion designer's website. Maybe I know maybe one or two. I think Mimanu has a website. I don't know if Mumini has a website. Maybe he does. But do you understand what I mean? So when I say we're not really there, I truly mean it. What's happening online on social media is, well, it's not even social media. On Facebook alone is a small group of people, let's say 1,000 people, are very loud. Of those 1,000 people, 100 are super, super, super loud. Their stuff creates like a small cloud. The people who follow them create a bigger crowd and a bigger crowd. So actually, the people, it's a very small group of people who are just very, very, very loud. Right? And what they're loud about are the kinds of things that get a lot of traction. If you're allowed conflict, controversy, all of that everywhere in the world generates a lot of traction, right? Yeah. So that's what we have. It's for me, this is really just the beginning. It's like so early. But what needs to happen in terms of an intervention so that like we can create a culture shift is digital skills training, is digital literacy, so that people can get more out of their digital experiences.
I was going to ask about that, about like creating a responsible digital culture. And I was thinking...
See, I don't know if I care about making responsible. That's why every time you said it, I'm just like, I don't know if it needs to be. I don't want us to monitor.
No, by that, what I really mean by that is just kind of respect that I haven't seen on Facebook. Okay. A respect when you have critical conversations that begin costly posting mama.
But if that kind of that's one thing. Life, what do you make you expect them?
And the second thing is the whole issue of revenge porn is really getting on my nerves.
Sure.
I think a lot of people do not know the consequences of that. And
so, gender-based violence is a problem in our society, right? So when it comes to, you take technology and then you just kind of like power technology. It's technology enabled gender-based violence, right? That's really what you're talking about. Again, this is not a Sierra Leone problem. This is something that's happening everywhere, even where there are more digital skills. They say art reflects life. Social media also reflects life, right? And that's just what it is. Yes, would I like to see less insult, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Sure. Is it a tangible thing to expect? Probably it's not going to happen. People are going to be who they are. My big critique is, if you're an unemployed person or an underemployed person and you've come online because you're seeking economic empowerment and financial growth, that video you saw, that's really what I was speaking to. That if the reason why you're here is because you want to learn and you want to grow, because you really want to make money, you want to make it your livelihood, then you have to think critically and behave in a manner that will generate the kind of economic opportunities that you're looking for, whether it's brand partnerships or adverts, et cetera, et cetera. If you want people to pay you to post content, then you have to remember that in order for those people to trust you and want to connect with you, they need to think of you in a trustworthy way. And if your content is always palava, palava, curse, 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 and toxic, it might limit the kind of opportunities that you get. That's what I was talking about. Like, copy the right things. I don't want to censor people and I don't want to limit their creativity. I have twerked on the internet and I still continue to twerk on the internet. I've been in my bikini on the internet. I live my life like myself, right? There are some people who might say, well, that's not responsible. It's not responsible. You're a role model, et cetera, et cetera. Fair. I don't mind what people say or like their own criticism. But the point I was trying to make is I do things that don't hurt my bank. They don't hurt my pocket. And so if you're online on your social media and you're trying to like build a business or build a brand, that you should be thinking about, is this post going to hurt or my brand in the long run, in the show? What perception are people going to have of me as a content creator? And is it one that's going to make them want to partner with me? Or even, because people could partner with you still, but maybe they're not paying you full price because they not take you as serious as them for take you. Maybe they could have been paying you 2 million or 2,000, but because of the way they see you, then go just say, oh, now 500 no more we get, right? So people, like the people see you and they value you based on what you project, right? And what you post, et cetera, et cetera. So if you make yourself cheap, then hey, well, just take this 350, but you self bought this, right? While someone else is commanding $2,000. And the question is, where do you want to be?
Yeah. Let's talk about the Vickie Remoe Prize for a bit and your intentions behind that platform and what you intended to achieve with that.
And I haven't announced it this year. Did you notice?
I noticed.
The reason I haven't announced it this year is because I'm not getting what I hoped to get. What I hoped to get was to support mid-level journalists or like entry-level journalists who've been doing it for a couple of years or content creators to grow. But it's like the people I've given so far, about, I would say half of them stopped doing whatever it was that they won the prize for. And so I'm like, okay, maybe not half, like a third. I'm like, ooh, that's not it. 1, 2, I'm a business person, right? And first and foremost, I'm always thinking about how my business can benefit. While this is a, what's the word? It's a philanthropic gesture. I'm also in business. I'm like, okay, does it make sense to continue to give people $200,000 every year? And then it's not coming back to me. And what do I mean? It's not coming back to me in stories. It's not coming back to me in content. So one person, Marianne Bangura, she won the prize the first year for something written. And then the next year, she moved to television. So she won again for TV. And then she said she wanted to go do her master's. She asked me to write her recommendation. I coached her and mentored her, and now she's studying journalism at NYU. So for me, I'm like, that is what I would love to happen, but that's not what's happening, right?
Question, have you asked why those people who stopped doing what they won the prize for stopped? Have you asked why they stopped?
I think it's life. I think that it's not an identity for a lot of people. It's something they got into, again, just like by play. And then they won this prize and they're like, oh, okay. And then instead of taking the money to reinvest in their craft, they eat the money. And for most of the people who've won the prize, it's the most they've ever earned from doing anything in the media, right? There are people who continuously still thank me. Like somebody said, because of this, I was able to pay for law school and finish doing my law degree. Because so it's the cash injection has helped people, but my thing is like to grow the sector. So ultimately it's still there. And also the other issue now that I'm thinking about is, should I tweak it and make it like more of a fellowship and decrease, instead of saying like we're going to give a prize to 10, 15 people, bring it down to maybe 5 people who get the fellowship. And part of the prize is you then come do your fellowship in my company and you're producing a certain kind of stories that I want, right? So then I get the stories back, right? I get the output and the people get the tutelage. The other thing we were supposed to do is mentorship, but I don't think people understand the value of mentorship. So even when you make it available to people, they don't know how to use it.
They don't know how to be mentored.
That's it. Like they don't know how to use the opportunity. Mentorship should give you a way to propel yourself where you want to go. Yeah. Right. And here people.
The problem is a lot of people don't know where they want to go.
And it's also true.
For a lot of people, a mentor just means someone you admire, period.
Yes.
I admire you, you're my mentor, period. The end.
It's true. And what I really wanted was like the people would get the prize and they would then, through mentorship, be producing a certain kind of story. Right. Or certain kinds of stories and say, hey, Vickie, I'm interested in this.
And that's what I wanted to ask about. Is it that there's a certain kind of story stroke content that you would rather have the participants or competitors, whatever you want to call them, you'd rather have them produce?
Yes. I want people to champion things that are local and indigenous and where the lens is not like so when I say make Sierra Leone famous for the right reasons, it's not to foreigners. Even though that happens, I don't do my work for the foreign lens.
They'll get to find out later. They can,
I don't do it for the white gaze. I don't do it for the development lens. I do it for Sierra Leoneans. I'm trying to make Sierra Leone famous to Sierra Leoneans. And so when I teach content creation, I teach people about a scale that I created called the Fascinating, Meaningful, Newsworthy Local Content Scale. And what it is a way to be able to assess your work, to know if I've written, produced, filmed, created something that is good quality, entertaining, of value, et cetera, et cetera. And even when I did the blogging workshops, anybody who's taken the class knows, I would ask them, what are you wearing? And in every room that we were, I asked them to tell me the labels of the clothes they were wearing and the phones they were holding. And, posting wear fila crepe, Nike this, blah, 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 blah. And I asked them, where are these things you're wearing, where are they from? And I'm like, everything you have here is local content somewhere else. But look how far it's come. Look how far Samsung came as local content. Look how far Apple has come from America all the way to Salon for Ulaya. That's local content. So I try to, in those conversations and those workshops, I really try to help people understand that you have to look within. And everything that is exceptional, great, newsworthy, et cetera, that you will do that will make you stand apart from everything else is when you focus on the local. Because the people in your community, they want to see themselves too. They want to be represented. They want to be documented. They want to be amplified. And those are the kinds of stories I would like the prize to encourage people to do. Or if someone is a content creator, they're creating something consistently that is giving a new perspective or covering something really in depth from Sierra Leone. So like it becomes almost like a library of, like a documentation. So my goal has always been to expand Sierra Leone's presence on the web. It's not something that any one person can do. But if collectively we all kind of have the shared vision of expanding Sierra Leone's presence on the web with our lens, with our uniqueness, then it's there.
As we round up this conversation, we've talked about, creating a somewhat responsible digital
No,
culture?
I not say responsible. I said
Somewhat.
profitable.
Somewhat responsible.
No.
Okay,
I don't want the
profitable.
responsible. I want the
Yeah.
profitable. I want
Okay.
the people away they panam, let them make money.
Okay.
And I know say the way for make money panam, now for fan, now for create more value. Controversy, not so necessarily value. What's in the happening right now is that, again, you have a lot of young people online. A lot of these young people, they don't come from a good community. And by good community I mean a community that values all the things that we think in a good thing, like honesty, integrity, excellence, hard work, blah, 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 blah. So, but waiting then sabi, with some party there, now like palava and this. So now then boku online. Anytime then see palava. Waiting when you're in school. Okay, let me just give you exactly what's happening online, okay? Where you be in the primary school, where two people they want fets, waiting they happen.
They go get that day.
Oh man, they can't get that. Like, hey, then they can't fet. Even the one that way not be dated, then they go call them come, then they can't fet. But is the fighting good?
Not necessarily.
It good for fets at school?
No.
But that don't mean say we know they can't get that. So what happens is, you're a content creator, right? You put both bass, whatever she calls it, online. People come and gather. Hey, then they can't fit. And what you don't realize is you respond to the traffic, right? So you put conflict, it's negative. People come and gather. And you think, if I want to be relevant or if I want to trend, oh, this is what they like. Let me give them more.
Yeah.
Right?
You become a slave to what your audience likes.
And that's the thing about digital literacy, that you need to understand that you either are a content creator who is committed to a certain kind of thing, or you're going to be a slave to the market, and they're going to determine. And very quickly, you lose your focus. You lose the reason why you got there, because you're feeding. It's like na animal, but you have to decide that, like, am I gonna let these people like make me violent? Right? Is this who I am? Is this what I want to project? You get for calm. Not every time. Not every time violence. Not every time violence, please. Not every time. Because when you dominate the streams with violence, there are business stories that are not being told. There are entrepreneurs that are not being spotted. There are brands that are not being celebrated. There are social causes that are not being amplified. There are true things that need to be documented, et cetera, et cetera. But when you let the violence dominate, it kills everything else. Because even when you want to come back now for talk about something substantive, they're not
nobody cares anymore.
Yeah, they're not
this time about
somebody, mama. Yes. That's
right.
where we are.
So what is your vision in terms of the digital space in Sierra Leone, whether it's storytelling or community building or even advocacy? What is your vision?
So I'm really passionate about Sierra Leoneans getting their shine on. Truly, we country not fine. The country not fine. The country not fine. The conditions now of life not fine. You're not fine. It is a constant refrain in my office. Any sort of feel like, it's in you're not fine. True. But there are some very fine people here, as in there are lots of people here who, regardless of the conditions and environment that they find themselves, they're really striving. And my passion is to amplify anybody who is striving for themselves. Because you're not fine, you're not get for fine today, you're not get for fine tomorrow. But I want as many Sierra Leoneans as possible who are trying and striving to be amplified. Because where people and they work hard and they try, nobody know they see them, nobody know they amplified in their stories. It makes it harder for them. If we're going to be online, I don't want to tell anybody how to behave, because if one creates value, no one creates value. But what I would like to see is Sierra Leoneans shining online, Sierra Leonean stories amplified, So for example, the guy who does Bondumani arts, right? He did a painting of me a couple years ago. I posted the painting on my Instagram. Somebody who's a producer at CNN who follows me saw it. So when she came to Time, she recorded a story about him. He contacted me and said, thank you so much. Because of you, I was featured on CNN. I've done that for a lot of people, like being the channel through which people get larger platforms.
Yeah.
That's what I want, right? I want us to champion our people, our brightest, so that they can get bigger opportunities because no fine. You're not fine, no. Yeah, not fine. And I just want...
generally, you're not fine.
Not fine. And we just need to spotlight our people and what is good. Because when they talk about Salonge, diamond, and these things, I can always say no. Our biggest assets, our biggest jewels, our biggest resources are our people. And if we don't continue to pour into our people, this will continue to not be fine. But if you pour into our people, you uplift them, they'll keep finding reasons to solve the problems that can make one small corner find small. We're like, this person don't got. No, that's what we need. That's what we need. So that's my big.
That's your vision.
Raison d'être, comme disent les Français. That's why I do what I do.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for being on the podcast and for making the time. That's it for today's episode of Honestly Speaking. Thank you for listening and being a part of these important conversations. If you've enjoyed today's discussion, please like and share. And if you're feeling inspired, do leave a review. I'd love to hear what you think. And of course, carry on the conversation online. Share your thoughts, experiences, and ideas using #HonestlySpeakingSL. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and stay honest.